My name is Peter Sterling. I'm 3.5 weeks into the job, so go easy on me, please. But on behalf of our board of directors, we are honored as the Mesa Chamber to welcome you to our annual Breakfast with the Mayor. And I'm a lucky guy for several reasons. My wife says I'm lucky for one reason, but this is an outstanding Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to make it even better. It's a great city. I've got a great board of directors, and I'd like to recognize them real quick right now. So if you are on the board of directors, could you stand real quick and be recognized? Thank you. Secondly, Mesa has an outstanding business community, and whether you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce or have yet to become a member of the Chamber of Commerce, we know that with the Chamber we're better together. And finally, we're lucky because what a city we live in, Mesa. I live here. I'm raising my kids here, and I couldn't be more excited to work with the Chamber, with the business community, with the city, the mayor, council, Chris Brady and the staff, and everybody else. So we'll move forward with that. There's quite a few generous companies that have stepped forward to sponsor this. We couldn't do it without them. First of all, and I'll recognize them. We'll clap at the end. First is AmeriCopy, Burge Ford, Boeing, Cox, Dibble Engineering, Intellis, Hunter, Husk Partners, of course the Mesa Ho-Ho Cams, Nesbitt Contracting, my favorite airport. Second, there's two favorite airports that I have. I'm a tenant at Falcon Field, so. But the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport is one of our sponsors, and we'll have Falcon next year, right? So, thank you. Of course, SRP, and SRP is everywhere, and Valley Metro. And if we took Valley Metro, we would have alleviated a little bit of the traffic that was out there this morning. So, thank you to all those sponsors, and I'd like us to recognize them because they've been very generous to this breakfast. So, thank you, sponsors. I also want to acknowledge real quick our host, the Hilton. What a beautiful facility. Gary Levine and his staff have done an outstanding job. And I was at the breakfast last year. This is so we can, Mesa's got a prosperous future, and we all know that. And Gary is helping us, Gary and his staff, with this healthful breakfast. We'll all be here in the future. So thank you very much, Hilton, and thank you, Gary. I want to bring up a guy that I get to work with this year. He's the chairman of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. He's with Johnson Bank, and that is Jim Winterton. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peter. Here in Mesa, we're very proud of Mayor Smith. He's a local product, a graduate of Westwood High School. From there, he went on to get an accounting degree from BYU and a joint MBA and law degree from Arizona State University. Mayor Smith has been a CPA, attorney, consultant, home builder, executive, and university instructor. Mayor Smith is a great example of a family man. He and his wife, Kim, have been married for over 30 years and raised their 3 children in Mesa. They are now enjoying doting over their 3 grandchildren. In just a few years of his first term, he's done many positive things for Mesa. He has led the city through a very challenging economic environment and has set up the city for future success. He has a passion for the job and is an outstanding representative for Mesa on the national stage. Just last week, he participated in the U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting in Washington, D.C. And last Friday, he met with President Obama at the White House. Since he took office, he has been teaming with ideas on building a better Mesa. We are in for a real treat as we hear about an exciting new initiative for Mesa. It is my honor to have the Mesa Chamber of Commerce host this presentation. Please let me present and welcome to the stage Mayor Scott Smith.
Thank you for being here this morning. As I was fighting the traffic on the 60 coming in, and was of course late, which does prove the adage that it is possible to be late for your own funeral. And my wife, we started out okay. My pocket? Oh, there you go, thank you. Anything else? Let me see, let's do it. I'm acceptable to the primary judge in the audience. My wife, she was talking and being a huge U2 fan. I won't tell you how many U2 concerts I've been to because after the first one, the rest were completely forgettable. But she loves U2, and so it's going to key up after this speech. We're going to put on a U2 song. I just haven't found what I'm searching for. So hopefully we'll do better. Obviously, we don't have a lot of U2 fans out there. I need to be a little more contemporary with my wrong place on the dial, you know. This is a great honor for me, and I thank you, Mayors Pomeroy and Hawker, for being here, and the members of our legislature, and all of you for being here this morning. And I hope that after today we come away with a feeling about where we are as a community and where we're headed. And one of the places where we're headed is the future. Uh-oh. There we go. And so as Peter told you, I have moved into the 21st century, I guess 10 years late. But you'll see me playing around with this nice little thing. These things are awesome, by the way, especially when my 3-year-old grandson goes and picks up, and we actually gave my grandkids an iPad for Christmas. I know that sounds ridiculous. The problem was that my 3-year-old and my 4-year-old grandsons were taking my son's work iPad and grabbing it when he got home from work and beating the you-know-what out of it. Because my 3-year-old can go on, type in the password, slide it, pick up the program he wants, and go from there and knows it better than I do. So this is the future. So we figured, hey, we'd give you something different today. I was going to wear a black turtleneck and all that kind of stuff, a la Steve Jobs, but decided not to. I want to tell you, first of all, not only what an honor it is for me to be here, but what an honor it is for me to serve as mayor. You know, of all the things that have happened to me in my life, and there's been a lot of great things, outside, of course, family and those things, serving as your mayor is the greatest privilege that I have had. And it's the greatest honor. And I want to tell you that every day I feel incredibly fortunate to have this opportunity to serve. As Peter said, we live in a great community. We live in a great state, regardless of what all those yahoos outside of our state say or think. Arizona is a great place, and Mesa is a great city. But there's no doubt that we are facing incredible challenges. One of mine is getting through this speech today and not losing my voice. I've been battling a cold, so if I lose my voice, that is your blessing and my curse. But we'll try and get through it. We have incredible challenges. That's not a secret. We have had incredible challenges at the state level. We've had incredible challenges at the city level. I'd like to talk to you about a few of these challenges. Hey, it worked. Okay. We're going to show you what it is between 2007 and 2008, the year that we were just starting to slide into this recession. The year that I took office, June of 2008. Thank you, Keno. Thanks for the gift. Gee. So we're going to start with 2008 and compare it to the current budget year, because this is sort of a before, and not after, but a before and current. I want to go through, spend a couple minutes to tell you where your city is as far as finances are concerned. This year, our general fund expenditures actually are $60 million lower than what they were in 2008. Now, that's not cumulative. That means this year we will expend $60 million less than we spent in 2007, 2008. That's 15%. Well, you know, you can look at that as an accomplishment, or you can look at that as however you want. I will tell you this. One thing I am proud of is that our city staff and our city council did not shy away from this challenge. I remember 2 weeks after I came into office, Chris Brady sat down with me and we looked at the sales tax numbers. And we made what I believe was a fateful decision at that time, a good fateful decision. We could look at that and say, wow, this little blip in sales tax, because now we're into our second, third month of what looks like a very precarious position. We can look at this as being just a temporary dive, or we can look at this as a trend. Because depending on how you look at it is going to dictate how you deal with it. We decided at that time, this is not a temporary dip. This is a trend. This is something that is going to change our reality. You're going to hear that word a few times. This is going to create a new reality. And so we put in motion a plan to deal with the new reality. And that plan went beyond cuts. That plan started out with saying, first of all, we're going to banish the word cut from our vocabulary, because a cut doesn't recognize a new reality. If you're going to deal with a new reality, you have to change the way you do business. You have to reform. You have to repackage. You have to restructure, because you have to deal with the fact that this is not going to go away. This is not going to come back at Christmas time. This is going to be here next year and next year and next year, and hopefully it'll be out. And how it looks now, it may be here another next year. And we did that. We put into place a plan, and management, city management, the city council worked for several months, and in January of 2009, we put in a new plan that has worked well. $65 million right off the bat over an 8-month period in reductions. That was to meet our projected revenue stream. That program has proven to be exactly what we needed, we hope. The number of city employees we have, we're down over 300, almost 400 employees, a 14% decrease. Our sales tax receipts, down by $30 million. Now you notice that our spending is down 60, but our city sales tax are down by only 30. That's because every other revenue source we have, including state shared revenue, the amounts we get from income tax and other things from the state and the pass-through, and our city share of state sales tax is also down. So we're down significantly. We're dealing with things in our new reality. And that's how we coin it. That's the world we live in right now. And we're not going to change that. There are outside forces that are determining what we have in the city. Let me tell you how your city operates. We do not deficit spend. We can't. We spend what we can collect. We don't borrow to cover operations. When we borrow money, it's to build things, fire stations, roads, those things. So we have to be consistent, and we have to be disciplined in what we do with our finances. So there is no doubt that we have less. We have much less, and that's not going to get any better. We hoped that we would see the bottom. I'm here to tell you that we may not have seen the bottom. If we have seen the bottom, it is sort of limping along. The latest sales tax receipts reports we have are for November 2010, so we actually include Black Friday. Year over year, receipts are down about 3.5%. Year to date, that's $5 million. Now, what does that mean for our budget year of 10 and 11? Because we're right at halfway through our budget year. We're still within that contingency with $5 million. But we're really walking a very fine line. And if Christmas didn't get better, and if January doesn't get better, we're going to be talking about additional changes. We're going to be talking about additional things we have to do as a city to deal with our new reality. The other thing is we will continue to have less to work with. This is not going to change. This reality is going to go for as long as certainly the economy nationwide continues to go, and it may go beyond that for this reason. Our sales tax system, as we look at it right now, does not correspond with the realities of the marketplace. Our revenue stream is based on a sales tax, because we have no primary property tax or anything, that is based on the sale of goods, exchange of goods. Our economy is not based on that much anymore. The other thing is if we do exchange goods, it's usually not picked up at Fiesta Mall. It's delivered by UPS off the internet. Mesa gets 0 taxes from internet purchases. And the last 3 years, the one segment of retail sales which has shown consistent growth has been internet sales. It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars now. A lot of that delivered to Mesa residents, which we don't collect taxes on. So this new reality may never go back to what you and I knew it was. It may never be restored to the place that we have. Now, what does that mean to us? Well, first of all, we have to look and see what we have as far as fat. I decided to put a family photo in there, yes. We always talk and hear about, just cut the fat. Cut the fat here, cut the fat there. And in any organization, I don't care what organization you're looking at. If you're looking at yourself as an organization, your family, your business, or the government, there are always inefficiencies. There's always fat. Here's how we used to talk about fat, and here's how I used to define fat. We could cut things, we could restructure in city government, and we could eliminate expenses that did not have a specific effect on services. Certainly there was an indirect cost. There was an indirect effect. But you didn't see it go directly to services. And we've done a pretty good job, I think, in the city of Mesa. Most of the changes, and if that $60 million, everyday citizens do not notice the changes. We notice it. Certainly our fire department, our police department notice it, because they're scrambling to keep up the same level of service or near the same level of service with much fewer resources. But the citizens don't notice. Those days are over. Those days are done. Now, if we have lower resources and we have to restructure or change or reduce expenditures, you will notice those changes. We're down there. When we talk about being to the bone, that's what it means. It will be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to have reductions in our expenditures that don't directly affect you and don't impact you. Now that's not a threat. That's just reality. That's where we are. That is the world we live in, and we have to make some decisions as a city and as a citizenry whether that is the kind of world we want to live in. Because we can't change reality. We can manage through it, we can deal with it, we can hope for the best in it, but we cannot change it. And that's our new reality. That's what we're dealing with. But I want to tell you one other thing about our new reality. And that is that in spite of these reductions in revenue, the city of Mesa is still very financially strong. We don't have trouble paying our bills. It's just that the bills that we can accept aren't quite as much as they used to be. We're not in danger of not paying our debt. I don't know of a single city around Arizona that really from that standpoint is in trouble. We are generally financially strong. But we have issues with delivering services at the levels that we're used to. Matter of fact, during this crisis, right in the middle of this downturn, our bond rating actually went up. It actually improved when the bond rating agencies came in and they saw how the city had addressed the issues, when they saw what the city had done to shore up its finance, when they saw some of the things that were started under previous administrations, Mayor Pomeroy and the discipline he enacted, Mayor Hawker, with the systems that they put in. And I inherited the great things they did. And thank you, Keno, some of the best. No, I'm just kidding. But they were impressed by that and increased our bond rating. So we are financially strong. And I'm just going to show you a chart now. Mayors Tibbs, Rainey, and Lewis. When you see this chart, this is not a comparison. This is not a good or bad. This is to give you context, okay? This is about relativity. This is comparing general obligation debt for the various cities around the East Valley and the Valley. And there's two things we look at: the amount of debt per resident, and our Arizona State Constitution places limitations on the amount of debt a city can incur. And that's to protect us from basically spinning ourselves into bankruptcy. And so these limitations are based on the assessed valuation in your city, property values in your city. Because generally debt is collateralized on the markets with property values. So these are these two factors. If you'll notice here, and the reason I put these up, once again, this isn't good or bad because cities are different. Different cities have different needs, and what is right for them may not be right for us and vice versa. So this is not to say, oh, we're so much better than everyone else. It's just to say, look, relatively speaking, when someone steps up to you and says, I can't believe the City of Mesa government, they are so unreasonably, financially, whatever you want to say it, they're just being put in debt. Well, look at how we compare with our neighboring cities. We do a pretty dang good job. And that's not something I created. That's been the history of Mesa. That's been our tradition. That's been how we have managed our city. We're much lower on a debt per resident, and on our percentage of debt limit, we are one of the lowest. And we do that without doing what my father's here, Dr. George Smith, thank you, Father. Longtime superintendent of schools here in Mesa, he used to tell me something. He said, there's something that's included in every prayer of every school superintendent in the world. Please, Lord, just give me a power plant. Give me some, if I'm Jay Tripp, give me an Intel plant. Unfortunately for Mayor Lewis, he has a huge power plant, which is owned by SRP, another government entity. So the fact of the matter is that we do what I believe a very good job of being very austere with how and very careful with how we incur debt. That still does not change our new reality. And the fact of the matter is that even with these new challenges, we will move on. We will continue to improve. We're not going to sit back and say, okay, we've made it. We're also not going to react or overreact. We're going to continue to face these challenges in the same way we always have, which is we're going to sit down, we're going to try and identify trends, we're going to try and identify those areas that we can do a better job at the city, those areas where we can be more efficient, those areas where we can serve our citizens better in a different way. There are no sacred cows in this city. I will tell you that. Our police department, our fire department, things that historically people said, oh, can't touch public safety, stepped up and made significant changes in their operations because that's where the dollars are. You can't avoid it. We got to the point where we could have eliminated every department in the city. Yes, parks, libraries, shut down everything and still not met our reduction in needs, still not met our budget needs. Police and fire had to step up, and they did, and they have. And they've done an incredible job of keeping you safe while doing their job in a different way that is much more efficient and save millions of dollars. We will continue to be creative, and we will continue to move forward. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's a phase we're going through. Is it a challenging phase? Absolutely. Is it a phase that will create huge changes? Absolutely. Is it a phase or a change or a challenge that we're afraid of? No. We'll get through because we have in the past. Remember, our forefathers came into this valley and in Mesa a little over 130 years ago, and look at what they faced. Our challenges probably seem really minor to them. We're sitting in a nice ballroom. I don't think they had this nice of a ballroom. And they went through drought and disease and famine and everything, and they built a great community. We'll get through this. One of the ways we'll get through this is we celebrate our successes. Yes, in the midst of all this doom and gloom, there's a lot of good things going on in our community. And as a matter of fact, in my 2.5 years in office, I can tell you that there are some incredible things that have happened in our community, our region, yes, and even in our state. And as a matter of fact, our crack staff, unbeknownst to me, put together a nice little video. See, we wanted to shake things up a little bit. We wanted to do things a little different because we knew you didn't want to look at me for the whole 45 minutes. So right now, we're going to show you some of the successes we have gone through over the last 2.5 years. From now on, we're simply going to say, get her done. This city works together with others for the benefit of our citizens.
I feel like I have a guardian angel that works overtime, and it's the City of Mesa.
We're actually going to blow the roof off of City Hall with pyrotechnics. This is the American dream, to have a house, however humble. This is where dreams intersect with reality. Building a better community, building a better Mesa, building a better region. You have really cool airplanes, and you have incredibly cool cars back there. I mean, is there anything better in life?
Building matters. The city of Mesa matters. What you do in this building matters.
We're moving forward to keep the Cubs.
Let me hear ya, Cub fans.
Kevin, in our world, there are no Republicans or Democrats, there are only Cubs fans. Make an investment to build a better Mesa. Building a better Mesa. Build a better Mesa. Build a better Mesa. Building a better Mesa. Building a better Mesa. Building a better Mesa starts here. Okay. Yeah, they threw that little building a better Mesa in just a few times. One of the ways, yeah, this was a costume change. You like this, a la Cher? You know, change things up. You know, the feathered head dressing didn't quite fit yet, so didn't have time. Unlike Cher, I will not go through 19 of these. This is it. What we wanted to do, though, is that in order to celebrate our successes, we want to recognize individuals and businesses and others and organizations that do great things in our community. So we put together the Mayor's Award for Building a Better Mesa. Now, the great thing about this is that this is not a contest. That we won't say these are winners and losers. This is simply a recognition. And there's many, many dozens of people and organizations that are worthy of this, and we'll be continually recognizing these people and these organizations. But today we want to start with a few. So these are the first recipients of the Mayor's Building a Better Mesa Award. Now what we do is in these areas, we look in public safety, economic development, community pride, regional leadership, civic engagement, architecture, design, redevelopment, and revitalization. Things that make for a great community. And let me tell you that a community is built on its whole, not on parts. You know, a lot of the big challenges we have as cities is what do we do in this new reality, and how do we deal with it? And the fact of the matter is that cities now have become gigantic public safety organizations. That's not how we started. Cities are organized under state laws to allow citizens to voluntarily come together to form cities. And generally they form cities for things that go far beyond public safety. As a matter of fact, most cities don't even start out with a police or fire department. But they do it so they can define their own destiny. They do it so they can control things like land use, so they can build libraries, so they can build parks, so they can do things together better and more specific to their community needs. I think one of the greatest things that we had was when Chief Gascon showed up at a budget hearing, and it wasn't for police. It was for arts and culture. And he showed up, he said, I'm here to tell you that arts and culture matter. Because what happens is that if you don't take care of these other parts of the city, these problems don't go away. That's what we deal with in the city. We deal with problems in real time. Because if we don't deal with these other parts, what he said was, I will deal with them. And it'll cost a lot more and be a lot less efficient. I was back in Washington last week, and one of the things of the mayors, we were talking with the federal government over community development block grants. And these are grants that go to very worthwhile organizations in our city that provide services that if they didn't do, we would still have to do it. And that's one of the things that's unique about cities, is that the problem doesn't go away just because we decide to cut a budget. We still have to deal with the homeless person. We still have to deal with that person who's mentally ill. We still have to deal with the abused child, because the cities are the place that deal with the net effect of those problems. The people we're talking about today are working on a community level to deal with those problems so that you and I perhaps don't have to deal with them in as expensive or as costly of a way. So the first one we're going to recognize is Lieutenant Mike Solberg of the Mesa Police Department. Let me just give you a little bit about Lieutenant Solberg. Lieutenant Solberg leads the Citizens Police Academy. And if you've never been to a meeting of the Citizens Police Academy, it's a pretty interesting deal where we have, how many in the normal class?
About 30, 35.
About 35 citizens who come in and for several weeks learn about our police department, learn about public safety. They become embedded in our police department and they develop a new appreciation for what our public safety does. Lieutenant Solberg has led this, and I'll tell you, if there's one thing that I like is when a police academy ends, a Citizens Police Academy, because I get a lot of really nice letters talking about what a worthwhile venture it was. So Lieutenant Solberg, thank you so very much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next recipient, okay, there we go. Terry Benelli. You can hardly talk about downtown without me mentioning Terry Benelli, but in a good way. Terry is dedicated to making downtown Mesa even more vibrant and successful. She finds ways to bring in exciting events as well as paying for some marketing efforts out of her own pocket. She's done that. I know her kids, you see them, very involved. Terry's dedicated her professional and personal efforts to build a better downtown Mesa, and she does it through NEDCO, her organization. Thank you, Terry. Thanks, Terry. The next recipient, Stephanie Wright. A few Stephanie Wright fans out there. I'm a fan of Stephanie Wright too. Stephanie is West Mesa's greatest champion. She is, oh, I lost my thingamajig, whatchamacallit here. There we go. Stephanie is still West Mesa's greatest champion. She has worked for years with the City of Mesa to overcome neighborhood quality busters like graffiti and blight. Stephanie helped form the Mesa Grande Community Alliance that draws active participation from residents, creates a positive image, and improves neighborhoods throughout West Mesa. A true champion of Mesa in general and West Mesa in particular, Stephanie Wright. Stephanie, thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Kate Alaverius. The dedication and talent that Kate contributes to building a better Mesa is extraordinary. She devotes numerous hours each week to civic positions and charitable causes. Kate uses her strong background in education to improve opportunities for children throughout the valley, and she is a tireless worker involved in improving the education of our children. So Kate, and she's one of my neighbors too. That didn't have anything to do with it. She was recommended by people who aren't my neighbors, but it was really a joy for me to see her recognized. Kate, congratulations. Thanks. The next is an organization that is deeply involved in our community, the Mesa Association of Hispanic Citizens. The Mesa Association of Hispanic Citizens, or MAHC, as you see in their emails and everything, builds community pride through civic engagement, giving a voice to those who might otherwise go unheard. This remarkable group of dedicated individuals provides a way for the community to connect with elected officials and civic leaders through various events, including their annual town hall and their engagement in other areas. The Mesa Association of Hispanic Citizens has 20-plus year history of building a better Mesa through community support and advocacy, and they are always a friendly voice and ear, and I appreciate my association with them because they keep me connected with a very, very significant part of our community. Thank you so much. Yeah. Mesa. Bill. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next one is, I will admit, is my choice. I always appreciate when people take buildings that have seen better days and create something special with this. And I want to tell you about Bunker Family Funerals and Cremation. Now, generally, a funeral parlor does not take something old and create something better. Although I hope when I go through their thing that they make me look better. And that's going to be quite a task. But I want to tell you, if you've driven by Bunker's building on Centennial, you know, it's a fairly old building that was looking tired. And so the great thing about it was, in trying to update this building, they went and sandblasted off the plaster facade, and they noticed, and they did something which is incredible. They did nothing. They noticed that the brick underneath that was beautiful in and of itself. And so you really can't see this very well. But if you look at the before and you look at the after, and if you haven't driven by Bunkers, it's a beautiful, classy, classic building that has totally changed the way you look at it. It's a great way to restore a building and yet to renew it. So Randy Bunker for Bunker Family in architecture redesign. Oh, we got Brian too.
Thanks.
And drive by there sometime and you'll know that even though what's inside may not look that great, you'll be in a great building, okay? At that time, you won't care, so don't worry about it. As Randy's, if you've never heard Alan Bunker, he always tells you when you meet him, it's great to see you. And he goes, yes, it's always better to be seen than viewed. Do they teach that kind of humor at mortician school? That's his own, okay. The next one is a new member of our community, and we're really proud of them because they came to our community after looking at other places and decided to locate in Mesa. And our staff worked with them well, and they have a beautiful new facility out on McDowell, just to the west of Greenfield, and that is Waxy Sanitary Supply. The building they built there, is gorgeous. It's also LEED certified, and Waxy is the kind of company we want in Mesa. When I went to the not the groundbreaking, but the ribbon cutting, it was amazing to see the spirit among the employees, to see how they took care of their employees, and to see what kind of great community asset they will be. So Waxy, thank you. Thanks so much. The next is Advanced Energy Efficiency and Environmental Quality, LLC. Oops, I left too soon. This is a before and after of a building that was put up, or that was refurbished by A3Q. A3Q, come on up, is one of two companies that participate with Mesa Ken and Arizona's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act Weatherization Assistance Program. That's a mouthful. A3Q saves residents money through energy-saving modifications, making life for Mesa residents more affordable, more comfortable, environmentally friendly, and they also create better places to live. And the wonderful thing that we have is not only do we make it more energy efficient, but they dress up houses that once again are tired, and they add to the neighborhood. And one thing we found out, and I know this from my home building days, is that when you invest and spend money in one part of the neighborhood, it is contagious, and it lifts an entire neighborhood. So A3Q, thank you so much. Thanks. You heard a lot about building a better Mesa, and we've talked about building a better Mesa since I came into office. And thank heavens, some people actually, and it's a big joke around our office, as you saw, about the building a better Mesa. What we wanted to accomplish, it was an overall program or plan to make Mesa a better place. We talked about making Mesa where families can live in a safer, more secure neighborhood, a place where all can realize their career goals, where we don't have this brain drain of our kids leaving Mesa because they can't fulfill their professional desires inside our city limits. It's talking about building pride in our community. I think you've seen a change. You've seen it different. People talk about Mesa in a different way when we have these successes, when we celebrate successes. People are proud of their community. When people are proud of your community, you invest in your community. We also wanted to be a leader in the region, and working with mayors such as Mayor Tibshraeny and Mayor Lewis and other mayors. Mesa is the third largest city in this state. We're the second largest in the valley. We should be at the leadership table. We should always be a leader in our region and in our state. And we're striving to be that, to be an example that people would like to follow and point to, saying, boy, did you see what Mesa did? That is talked about a lot in City Hall. What can we do to create something that people want to follow? That's a high standard, and we don't shy away from that. The other thing is to reestablish trust in city government. We want our citizens to believe that they're government. You know, perception is everything. And I'm not saying that our city government did always care about their citizens, because I think over time, Mesa city government has been more responsive to its citizens' needs and has built a community that is the envy of many other cities. But we have our ups and downs, and we want to be on an up. And so we're working hard to reestablish trust in city government. And the last thing is to pursue economic development citywide. We have various different areas in our city that all have different challenges and opportunities. And the idea is not to focus on just one area, but to recognize that each of these areas offer unique opportunities. And our economic development has to be citywide, has to focus citywide, while still recognizing the unique nature of each individual area or village. And that's what our plan has done, is that we put as much effort into the gateway areas we do into downtown, as we do into Falconfield, as we do in the Fiesta District. We're trying to create a tide that is citywide, and we're really working at that. We also introduced our 4 pillars of economic development: the HEAT initiative, HEAT, health, education, aerospace, tourism. And I can tell you that what we do now is that when we go out, we talk about heat. Not summer heat, but Mesa heat. We talk about the areas that we're strong in. We work towards our strengths. We're working a lot with, for example, our neighboring cities. I can tell you that Gilbert and Mesa are working better together than they ever had, and this is just the beginning. On areas where we share not only a border, such as along Baseline and Power Road, but if you'll notice, there's huge economic activity and opportunity along that border that doesn't care which side of the street you are on. So we're working with Gilbert on the Power Knowledge Corridor. We're working with Gilbert on Gateway. We're working with Gilbert in the MD Anderson area, the Banner Gateway Hospital, and taking advantage of the opportunities that will come when that facility opens. We're working together so that we can magnify everything. But we're at a crossroads right now. I've now given you the doom and gloom and our new reality. I've talked to you about the great things that are happening. But what I want to talk to you in the few remaining minutes I have is the decision we have to make right now. And that is, what are we going to do? I've gotten to know a lot of mayors around the country, and it's been a great privilege of mine because I see mayors from big cities, small cities, northeast, southeast, everything. One of my favorite mayors is Mayor Kasim Reed from Atlanta. Mayor Reed is a 41-year-old, he's just an energetic guy, and he sees the future and the vision. And he asked an interesting question one time, or talked about an interesting thing. We are not going to be what we have been if we don't change. Now, this is interesting because this is a huge challenge for older cities, especially in the southeast and northeast, that are embedded. Generations and generations the way they do things. We need to get on with it. We're just plain and surviving. And we need to be very clear where just surviving takes you. It takes you to a lifestyle of just survival. It's real easy to get caught in the moment and say, we have so many struggles, we have to deal with those struggles and push everything else off the table. If we do that, we'll be very good at surviving. And then when I show up at bunkers, and my city is left to my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, they will live in a survival city. That is not the kind of city I want my children to live in. I want them to live in the city that my parents and grandparents left for me. And Wayne Pomeroy's grandparents, great-grandparents, how far does it go back, Wayne? Left for me. And that's a vibrant, growing city. But we have to decide. We have to make a conscious decision as to whether we're going to be in survival mode or whether we're going to be in growth mode. Thomas Friedman, who wrote Tipping Point and a few others, and has some interesting takes on some things, some of which many of us agree with, some that are sort of out there, but this one hit home to me. Everyone knows the first rule of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. How many of you have heard that over the last little while? You hear it a lot, right? Okay, so that's not new for you. But here's something that we don't think about. People often forget the second rule of Ho's. You can only grow your way out. Now, in a political sense, that means you can't tax your way out. You can't borrow your way out. But you have to grow your way out. At a local level, we don't really have those kind of situations because remember, we don't borrow to pay for operations. But we still have to decide, how are we going to grow our way out of this hole? Because we're in a hole. Now, Mesa stopped digging the hole, but the question is, are we going to live in a hole or are we going to get up and see daylight again? What are we going to do? That's why we're in a crossroads. Are we in this to survive? Or are we in this to grow and improve? Are we in this to truly build a better Mesa? If that's what we're going to do, then we have to make a conscious decision to move in that direction. Now that's hard because once again, we're faced with daily challenges that sort of push us into a survival mode. But we are a family. This is the gratuitous family photo, by the way. I put it up there just to remind all of you who don't have grandkids that are quite as cute as mine. I hope someday you too can enjoy grandkids that cute. They weren't quite as cute Sunday evening when we had them for 4 days straight. I pulled out this picture and said, yes, you are cute. Yes, you are cute. I often hear the adage, why doesn't government act more like a family? What does a family do when it's faced with financial trouble? It can't go out and borrow up esteem. It can't go out and do things like that. Well, in a way, we do act like families because cities are living, breathing organisms. They grow old. They have to be renewed. They have to restructure. They have to reboot sometimes. Do people reboot? I guess computers reboot. They have to figure out where they are in that particular time, and then they sometimes have to go in a different direction. Now, when families are hit with challenges, sometimes they just go into survival mode. We all know people like this. They just hunker up, go over in the corner, and they just survive. And that's understandable because this world is tough. Others adjust. They say, we're not going to just survive. We want a better life. We want a future. We want things to go right. And so they focus on that future. I want to tell you about a family, which is one of many families in our community, in every community, but this one's special. This is Fatima Taiska and her son. Now, Fatima has an interesting story, which once again is not unique, but that doesn't make it any less special. She came to Mesa a few years ago, and she's a bodybuilder. So that tells you someone who's disciplined. And through a variety of circumstances, she found herself a single mom on the street, destitute. About as low as you can get for someone in her position. She had a choice. I can be a survivor. I can just go into survival mode and just limp along, or I can build something, build a future for me and my son. Well, someone like that, you know what she did. Because if she didn't do this, I wouldn't have her in the story. Now, she wanted to be here today, but guess what? She couldn't. She's at work. She got together with Save the Family, a great organization here in Mesa, and they put together a plan. She stabilized herself. She managed the time that she was living in. She figured out how to survive while at the same time improving herself. She went to job training. She's now enrolled at Mesa Community College. She's studying. She'll be a degreed individual. She's building a life. She decided, I'm not going to be a survivor. I'm going to be a grower. I'm going to have a future. I'm going to create a future for me. I'm going to create a future for my son. You can do both. Cities can't act like families. How do we look to the future in our city? Well, first of all, we need to imagine our dreams. We need to invest in our future, and we need to improve our community. Those are the things you saw on your placards. Those three things. And if you haven't noticed, there's a little bit of a theme here with the I. What we'd like to tell you, we'd like to start talking about iMesa. Now, many of you may think this is a cheap knockoff of what Apple does. I want to tell you that couldn't be further from the truth. I came up with this idea one day while watching iCarly with my grandkids, and it was formalized during breakfast at IHOP. And the fact that I have jeans and a blue shirt has nothing to do with the Apple connection. But this is about Mesa. Mesa is about imagining. It's about investing. It's about improving. As I've said, we cannot get out of this survival mentality without a conscious effort. We cannot do that. I'd like for you to imagine a place where residents consciously invest with the express intent of improving their community. You saw a few people up here today that consciously sat down and said, I'm going to do something which is going to improve either my life, and most importantly, it's going to improve the life of my neighbors and my community. They did it consciously, not by accident. And that happens a lot in this community. As individuals step up to do great things, more so in Mesa than almost any other community I know of. But what we need to do is that we need to do this, put this into form on a citywide basis. iMesa is a grassroots citizen investment and improvement effort to develop transformational community projects in Mesa. Boy, does that sound bureaucratic or what? But there's a few words here. Grassroots. This has got to be an initiative that works from the bottom up. I cannot tell you, this city council cannot and should tell this community what's important. The citizens of this community have to decide what is important. And they have to tell us. And they should be demanding of us what we do as a community. They should be at the doors, not banging things down because of little things, but of big things. Why don't you think more positively? Why don't you create this future for my son? You know, we hear a lot about the potholes. I'd love to hear about the next transportation corridor. And we do hear about that, but not as much. This needs to be driven from the bottom. Transformational. We do a lot of things in this community, and we do a great job of keeping up. Our streets are great. Our infrastructure is second to none, and we've been long lauded for that, and we do a great job of that. What we need to do is do things that literally change our legacy projects. And it doesn't have to be sticks and bricks. We need to, these projects can be something physical. It can be an effort. It can be a program. It can be an organization. It can be change the way government does its business. Things need to be transformational, though. They need to change. They need to be things that our kids and grandkids will look at and say, thank you for doing that. That's what we're looking for. That's how high we have to dream. What it is, once again, a citizen-driven process. How will iMesa work? The mayor and council will appoint certain committees, citizens committees. What these committees will do is first of all, they'll be made up of a cross-section of the community. We need everybody involved. They will use the villages concept. Our city has several areas that are naturally cohesive, and they're also naturally very different from the area across town. There is no way that the Fiesta District has the same issues as the Desert Uplands, Los Andes Red Mountain Ranch, or even that the downtown area has with the Gateway area. We're all Mesa, but we're different. We're going to develop these are true villages that have their own personalities, their own histories, their own visions as to what they need. You have an older part of Mesa, you have a newer part of Mesa. In the older part of Mesa, we have infrastructure, we have amenities that are aging. They're not like they were when I was a kid. Matter of fact, some of them haven't had any investment since I was a kid. Out on the east, they have no infrastructure. We grew so fast and then got hit that there isn't the kind of infrastructure that we have on the west. So we have different needs and different opportunities. So we're going to divide this into villages. We're going to also have direct citizen input through the web. We are going to bring us into the new world. And we'll do that, and I'll show you an example of how we're going to do that. We have a dedicated website that can be used, and also we're going to have mobile apps that any citizen, if they're out and say, I'd love to do this, can go on with their iPhone or their Droid or whatever else they have to give us examples. There's one thing as a mayor I will give these committees and these citizens. There are no restraints. There is no idea that's outlandish. There is no cost, as far as they're concerned, in dreaming. Now, reality will hit soon enough. You know, there will be natural restraints that will be given to these transformational projects. But the idea is that let's don't think of those right now, because a lot of those restraints are perceived. A lot of those restraints are picked up by where we are now. That's the problem with being in the survival mode, is you start thinking about nothing's possible because I look at where I am right now. I look at how we're struggling to do things right now, which means nothing's possible in the future. When we dream, we can't have those restraints. Those restraints will play out soon enough, and we'll deal with those. But in the initial stages, no restraints. Let's see what we can think up. Here's an example of the web page. As you can see, this is the iMesa page. Citizens can come in and put their idea in there, and these ideas start loading up down here. And then what citizens can do is, if they like an idea that's already been presented, they can vote for it or vote against it. Or they can enter their own idea. Now, to keep things from, to keep people from going on and sort of stuffing the ballot box, so to speak, each person is only given 10 votes, and they register. We don't want this to be an anonymous process. We want people to be engaged. So when you go onto the iMesa page, you'll be asked to register. You'll ask to be engaged. If your idea is good enough, you should be willing to be connected with it. And the idea is that we'll take these ideas, we'll add them to the ideas that come out of these citizens committee groups, and then we'll decide what to do. This will happen throughout 2011. We're going to take about the next year or so to formulate some ideas, to come up with some of these projects, to come up with some of these ideas. Then the committee will report recommendations to the City Council in early 2012, probably about a year from now, maybe 13, 14 months from now. The idea is to give us this year to try and identify those things that are truly important, those ideas that are truly worthwhile. The reason for this is that there may be some actions that are submitted by the committee that require citizen approval. You know, some change to the charters, some financing, we don't know. And if we do that, we want to be in position that if we need to, we can put it on the 2012 ballot, if it's the right time to do it. May not be the right time until 2014. Whatever it is, we want to have that option. And we think that a year is long enough for these citizens group to come up with these ideas, these transformational projects. The whole idea is to improve. The only requirement is that whatever idea you have, it's got to build a better Mesa. And the idea is the only way to improve is to truly put these things in motion. iMesa is something, it's just a tagline. It's a brand. It doesn't mean anything unless we make it happen. I was asked by a newspaper reporter, aren't you afraid this will fail? I said, am I afraid? No. Do I think it can fail? Absolutely. Like any idea or initiative, you run a risk of failing. You know, this is a big risk. We're putting it all out there. I'm literally throwing something out that could either be a grand success or a colossal, wimpy, just puff of smoke. I get that. You don't get anywhere without taking risks. You don't get anywhere without doing something bold. This can be as bold as the citizens of Mesa want this to be. We can come back with 0 recommendations, 1 recommendations, or 1,000 recommendations. It doesn't matter. If we come back with 1 or 2 things or a process that improves our community, hopefully it will have been worth it. I'm not afraid of that failing, but that's always the risk. We're going to take a risk. Can we afford to do it? People automatically think, how much is this going to cost? I don't know how much it'll cost. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. I don't know. We're going to go through this process and find things. We found in Mesa one thing in the last 2 years. If citizens understand what they're being asked to approve, if they believe it will improve their community, they will support it. And we found out that if they don't believe in it, or if they don't understand it, then they won't. You know, Mesa's always gotten the bad tag that, the citizens just say no. No, Mesa voters are very savvy. They say no to things that they don't really believe will improve their lives. They say yes overwhelmingly. And I'll tell you, in the last elections, I tracked 2 or 3 precincts very carefully. And these precincts are in areas that, retirement villages that you would expect that I've been told, always vote no. And then I try and find one that actually has more than 5 Democratic voters. There are a few precincts. There's one that is actually majority Democratic, and you would figure is a more liberal. And I track those to see from everything from our bond election to the Gaylord election to the property tax to the Cubs. I look and see the differences between those two. And you want to know what's interesting? What would you expect? That those would show vastly different results? No. In every election I just told you about, the voting percentages, which was 2 to 1 in almost every one of those elections, approval was within 2 percentage points of each other. So what that tells you is that when people believe in their community, they'll support their community. And it doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't matter if they're conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, because these questions are not partisan. They're about Mesa. They're about our community. So the question is, can we afford not to do it now? I don't believe we can. I think we have to move forward. I think we have to move on. We have to come up with something concrete. We have to involve the citizenry. I remember when I was in high school, I had coaches that would always say this. I just hated this thing. To me, this is the slang. There is no I in team. Duh, like we can spell. Maybe we couldn't. But in this case, the I in iMesa is the most important. Because what it means is that I am ready, I am willing, and I am committed. I, as an individual, am willing to come together as part of the community to truly build a better Mesa. I hope that as we look at this and as this comes out, you'll be engaged. I hope that as we come out that we will be able to give you the kind of information that will inspire you to become involved even more than you already are. The fact that you're here means that you either got a free breakfast and got out of work this morning, or you actually care about our community. I'd like to believe it's mostly the latter, and if it's not, let's just go along with that, okay? The fact of the matter is that because you are here, you believe in our community. Because you are here, you are willing to change our community for the better. Because you are here, you want to know what you can do to build a better Mesa. Please help us to build a better Mesa. Regardless of how we're involved, whether iMesa is the program or there's something else, let's not get dragged down by the crisis that we're in. Let's move beyond that. Let's move ahead of that. Let's move to build a better Mesa. Thank you so very much for this point.